Story has been blamed for panic attacks. Listener discretion is not enough. If you're alone, you won't be for long. Turn back now, because once this begins, it doesn't let go.
I was alone for the weekend at my cabin house on the outskirts of town. It wasn't alone in a remote place. There were other houses nearby, but they were far enough apart that you could go days without seeing anyone. I never had visitors like salespeople or people from the neighborhood. The houses in this area were the type that people would pass by without noticing. If you didn't pay close attention, you would just see a big forest of trees. It was winter after a big snowfall, and everything seemed quieter than normal. A heavy layer of snow covered everything, making the woods behind my house look deeper and darker than normal. I was usually okay being by myself out there. The house was warm and welcoming, with many large windows, a stone fireplace, and a nice cabin vibe. That was the main reason I moved there. On the first night, nothing strange happened until it got late. I was in the living room watching YouTube videos and felt a bit sleepy by midnight. After some time, I turned off the TV and went in my room. It was a one-floor house, so my bedroom was at the end of the hall. The bedroom looked like the rest of the house, with big windows from the floor to the ceiling on the wall and a sliding glass door that opened to the woods. Since the house was surrounded by woods and had no nearby neighbors, it seemed reasonable, I suppose. But it sometimes felt weird. Just seeing my reflection in the glass at night would scare me, making me think someone was outside. But this night was special. When I switched off the lights and got into bed, I heard a noise. I hear a gentle cracking noise coming from outside, not like an animal or the usual sounds you hear in the forest. It was louder, like someone stepping on a big branch. A few seconds later, it happened again. I sat up and looked at the big window. Since the lights in my room were off, I could see outside clearly through the window. I looked for about 30 seconds before I saw something move in the dark space between the tall pine trees. It's a shape I can't explain. Just a quick movement of a shadow between two trees. It's like someone moved out of sight or moved into sight. I couldn't see. Everything was quiet after that. After waiting for a few minutes and looking outside, I started to feel nervous. I began to wonder if I had just made it up or if my eyes were playing tricks on me in the dark. But I stayed still for a long time. Finally, I got up to make sure the sliding door was locked, then I went back to bed. After that, it took me a long time to fall asleep. Every 30 seconds, I felt like I needed to open my eyes and check the window again, but each time, there was nothing to see. The next day was unusual. Nothing clearly happened, but everything felt strange in a way I couldn't explain. I often felt like someone was nearby, watching me, even though I couldn't see them. I kept looking back at the window behind me, half expecting to see someone watching. I never did it, but the feeling still stayed. As it got later and turned dark again, it started to snow, which made me feel a little better. I think it made it even less likely that anyone would be outside hiding when it was cold and snowy. I tried to keep my thoughts simple. At about 10 o'clock, I was sitting in the living room, watching TV and wrapped in a blanket next to the fireplace. The light from the TV brightened up the house, so I didn't notice how dark it was inside until I got up from the couch to get a soda. As I walked down the main hallway, I saw that the light was off in the far room, the little den with bookshelves. I could have sworn I turned it on earlier. I usually kept it on because it gave a nice soft light, so the house didn't feel dark like a cave. I went over and turned the light back on quickly, not thinking much of it. Then I got my soda and sat back down. I was back on the couch for a moment, just starting the TV again when I looked over my shoulder. I wasn't even trying to look at anything. It was just one of those looks you give without thinking. But the light in the room was off once more. I could feel my face getting hot. I got up and walked down the hall a little so I could see the light switch. The switch was turned off and pushed down. I just looked at it. Someone was in that room, and it felt like they wanted me to come in. I began to step back. My phone was charging on the side table in my room, and my car keys were by the front door. I realized I had to grab both things and go right away. I quietly walked to the other hallway and went into my bedroom. I picked up my phone, but I noticed something move behind the screen. I looked up and at first, I could only see some soft footprints in the snow outside the window. Then my eyes followed the footprints to a big shape. A man is standing a few feet behind the window. He was completely in the shadows, but I could tell he was watching me. I ran back down the hallway to the front door, grabbing my keys and hearing two people walking on the other side of the house. I opened the door and ran to the side where my car was parked. As soon as I walked in, I saw that same person run around the house and head straight for my car. I started the car and quickly drove to the main road, seeing him standing where my car had just been and watching me leave. It took just over 30 minutes for the police to get to my place. What they discovered was shocking. Many windows were broken, and the inside of the house looked ruined. Doors and cabinets taken off their frames. The furniture is turned upside down, and there are marks and tears in the walls. I told the police that I heard two people inside and saw one man outside. However, the way they left the house made it hard to understand how the two got in quietly while I was home all day. I lived in a hotel for several weeks while I fixed the house and got it ready to sell. I couldn't stop thinking about how three people had been following me for a long time without me knowing. If I hadn't gotten away, I can't even think about the awful things that might have happened that night. Even now, I still dream about being in that hallway, walking toward the room with the light off, knowing that something scary was waiting for me right outside the door. My name is Oliver, and I am 38 years old. I need to tell you some background information so you can understand why I live where I do. 2 years before this happened, my wife and I split up a few months after we bought a house together. It wasn't a bad breakup, and we didn't actually get divorced until months later. But I got off topic. The house we bought is very large, too big for just the two of us. But it was meant to be a place where we could grow together and possibly have kids and dogs in the future. After we parted ways, I had to decide whether to sell it for less money than I paid or to keep living in it. I decided to stay. I lived by myself in that house for 2 years. I promised myself I would use the space in some way. Since I work from home, I might have a room for my office, a room for working out, and a bedroom, so it doesn't feel too empty. But I never actually did it. The big house was mostly empty and unused. If you opened a random door, it's likely that you would find just an old, empty room. I wouldn't even enter half the rooms for months. I didn't really mind it, but sometimes I felt a little uneasy being alone in a big empty house, and it made me feel lonely. I finally chose to do something I wanted for a long time: adopt a dog from a shelter. That's when everything began. I found a tiny puppy named Piper. She is 8 months old. She was a beagle, and I got her from a shelter about 3 hours from my house after work. When I got home, it was about 8 p.m. Me let her walk around the yard for a while, then took her inside to check out her new home. In the shelter, Piper was really excited, happy, and full of energy, even during the car ride home. As soon as I let her in, she got really shy. I thought she was just not used to the house, and all the changes were making her nervous, so I didn't worry about it too much. I let her explore by herself and sat on the couch to give her some room. She walked around for almost 2 minutes before jumping on the couch with me and cuddling in my lap. She looked a bit scared, but I thought it was just how a new puppy acts when they move to a new place. Later, I took her upstairs and we went to sleep. In the morning, things felt a bit brighter. She stayed close to me while I made breakfast and coffee, and then she sat under my desk while I worked all day. After a few hours, she got up and walked to the doorway, standing halfway in the hallway and looking very alert. A few seconds later, she left the room completely, and I could hear her nails tapping on the floor as she walked down the hallway to the stairs. I believed she was finally relaxed enough to check things out. So I left her by herself and continued my work. I want to say 10 minutes passed when, out of nowhere, she started barking loudly from downstairs. I got up from my desk and rushed through the hallway and down the stairs. Her barking was loud and echoing around the house, making it hard to figure out where she was. I shouted her name and walked through all the rooms until I found her. Piper was oddly standing in the middle of an empty room downstairs, just staring at the wall. When she saw me, she quickly walked over and stood next to me. With with her tail down and looking anxiously at the empty room. I walked in and saw nothing interesting or understandable. It was completely empty. I tried to soothe her by picking her up and shutting the door to the room. I took her back to the office, and after a little while, I went back to my work. The rest of the day was pretty quiet. After I finished work, I took her for a walk in the neighborhood. Then we spent the night watching TV, going upstairs, and went to bed at 10 o'clock. But in the night, I woke up. It's not really about a sound or anything, just a feeling. I sat up and saw Piper standing by the bedroom door, with her ears up and her eyes focused on the space in the doorway. I said her name, but she didn't respond. I'm not really sure why, but I lay back down and quickly fell asleep. I can't believe I did that when I think about it now. I thought she was just feeling uneasy because she was in a new place. I woke up in the morning and everything felt fine. Piper was on the bed with me and acted normal. I got dressed and went downstairs, let her outside, and followed my usual morning routine. When she came back in, we both went upstairs to my desk. Just like yesterday, she lay down right under my desk while I was working. I looked under the desk at her a few times to see if she was okay, and every time she was just sleeping, so I went back to my work. I didn't check under my desk again until almost 6 o'clock, when I was almost finished with work and it was mostly dark outside. She wasn't there. I looked around the room and she was not there anymore. It must have come out without me seeing it. I shut my laptop and stood up, calling for Piper as I walked into the hall, but I didn't hear a response. I didn't hear her move, bark, or make any noise at all. The house was very quiet. Piper, Piper, where are you? I shouted through the house. As I began to walk down the hall to the first floor, I felt a strange uneasiness. There was no evidence of her being there. It was so silent that I could hear my heart beating. I walked down the next hallway to the room where I saw her yesterday. As I got nearer, I saw that the door was not completely shut. It was opened, and I was sure I hadn't left it like that. I opened it more. Piper was sitting in the back corner of the room, shaking and looking at the door where I was. She looked very scared, like there was something else in the house with us. It made me feel like I should stop before going to her. When I looked behind me, I quickly saw someone looking down the hallway near the stairs. I quickly went back into the room and shut the door hard, locked it, and walked over to Piper. A few seconds later, some quiet footsteps began to walk down the hallway. He walked right up to the door. Piper started to whimper softly, still curled up in the corner and looking at the door. I was really too afraid to even move. I just stood in the middle of the room, waiting for something to occur. The person by the door stayed still for a bit before slowly walking back down the hall. It was nearly scary how sure they seemed, just standing still and not running away. It seemed like they didn't care about anything happening around them, or that this was what they wanted. This made me curious about what they were really here for. I didn't hear anything after that. I think I was in that room with Piper for half an hour. I just couldn't make myself move. When I finally opened the door, I saw the dark hallway and noticed the front door at the end was wide open, hoping it meant that whoever was gone is not coming back. I ran back upstairs to grab my phone and call the police. While I was up there, I saw several doors that I usually kept closed. As soon as I got my phone, I ran back to Piper and stayed in that room until the police arrived. They looked inside the house and also checked the land around it, but they didn't find anything. There are no signs that the intruder is still here, but they did find proof that he had been in my house. In one of the rooms upstairs, next to my office, there were a lot of things that made it seem like someone had been staying there for a long time, maybe even months. Even worse, it looked like the person might have been sleeping in the closet during the day, so I wouldn't see or hear them. Then they would come out at night to leave or go back inside the house. The room she was barking at was right under the one where the person was hiding. She might have heard them moving around upstairs or something. After everything was over, this event made me decide to sell the house and move into a smaller one. I brought Piper with me because she is the best friend I could ask for. Since we moved, she has been just as happy and excited as when I first got her from the shelter, and she hasn't been anxious at all. I still worry that the person hasn't been found and would come back. I know it's probably not going to happen, but I feel like I will always remember it. I was 18 and still living with my parents, but since I was old enough, they could leave me alone at home without any issues. This was one of the times when my parents were away for a few days. Our house was pretty normal, just a regular family home in the suburbs. On days like this, I usually just stayed home and watched TV or played video games. I didn't own a car, so if I didn't want to walk 30 minutes to get fast food, I had no reason to go out. In the morning, I mostly stayed in bed for a few hours watching TV. I got up to start my day and went downstairs to the kitchen. As soon as I went downstairs to make breakfast, my friend texted me. I thought he was just waiting for me to come online. I made breakfast before I even looked at it. When I finally opened it, I felt a bit confused. He asked, "Who is the guy outside your house?" I was really surprised by that. I said, "What?" and went to the front window to check, but there was no one outside. No cars, no people, just a quiet neighborhood with nobody around. My friend's house was right across from mine, and I couldn't see him in the window or anywhere else, so I was puzzled. After a minute, I thought I would just call him, assuming it was just a silly joke he was playing. He was the kind of friend who would say silly things like this sometimes just to tease me. But this time, I honestly didn't understand what was funny about it. He replied and didn't even pretend it was a joke. He was serious and said he saw a man outside my house that he didn't recognize. He only brought it up because the guy looked like he was trying to peek through the windows. That was really strange, but we both couldn't tell who it was or what he was doing. Since he wasn't around anymore, we just moved on and joined a Discord call to play video games for a few hours. I went downstairs once to get more water and peeked out the window quickly, but I didn't see anyone. We stayed online until around 5 or 6 before ending the call. All I remember is that it was dark outside, and I noticed how much time had gone by. I woke up and went downstairs. I began to make a fast dinner, not knowing how I would spend the rest of my evening. I'll probably just watch TV in my room. While I was cooking in the kitchen, I noticed a shadow move quickly on the wall in front of me. I quickly turned around. I didn't see anything moving in the living room until I looked at the window. I went up to it and looked outside. It was dark and quiet. I didn't see anybody. The thought of someone possibly looking at me from outside creeped me out, but I thought I was just feeling a bit nervous. The shadow I saw might have just been a car driving by or something like that. I was confident there was nothing to be concerned about. I finished cooking dinner and went to my room to eat. Then I lay in bed and watched TV. I was up there for at least an hour, maybe a bit longer, just spacing out and sort of watching whatever was on. As it got later and darker in my room, I noticed that I hadn't turned on any lights upstairs. The TV was the only light in my room, and I kept noticing my eyes looking at the gap under the bedroom door. I saw that the hallway outside my room was completely dark. Normally, that wouldn't bother me, but tonight it just felt strange. I paused the show and got up to get a snack from downstairs. I also wanted to turn on all the lights and hope it would help me feel better. When I opened my bedroom door, the feeling got stronger. The house was really quiet, and the hallway was very dark. I turned on the light and saw it was just an empty hallway. I felt a little silly and even annoyed at myself for being scared. I went downstairs. Before having a snack, I looked out the windows. The fear I was feeling was something I don't think I've ever felt before, especially not this much. I left all the lights on downstairs because I knew I wouldn't go back down before bed. I did this so I wouldn't have to worry about it being really dark down there. I began to go back upstairs, but I stopped for a moment on the steps. I thought I heard footsteps echoing in the house, but it didn't sound quite normal. I had never heard the house make those sounds before. I walked down a little and then back up, but it didn't make the same noise. I stood there for a moment, feeling confused and thinking about what I had heard again and again. My eyes got big and my heart started to race. I quickly ran up the stairs to my room, locked the door, and called the police. I was almost completely sure that the footsteps I heard in the house were matching mine. It was as if they were copying my steps so I wouldn't hear them approaching from behind. While I was standing on the stairs thinking about it, I understood that it really did sound like that. After I called the police, I phoned my friend to see if he had seen anything. He said no, but then he went to the front window while we were talking on the phone, trying to see outside. A few minutes later, he suddenly said, "Oh no," when he saw a man climbing out the window on the side of my house and running into the trees. He said it looked like the same person he saw earlier. I couldn't say anything for a minute because I was scared that my feeling of not being alone was true. When the police arrived, I stood outside with them while they checked things out. My friend also went outside and spoke to them. It didn't result in much, except for a promise to look for the man and check back if there are any new clues. They compared it to a similar event from a few weeks ago in a nearby area. In that case, a child was home alone when a man was seen acting strangely outside, and he went to the window to try to get the kid to let him in. In both situations, it's not really clear what he was planning. The obvious choice is kidnapping, but he didn't have a car, so it didn't seem possible that he would pull a kid out of the house while the kid was yelling and fighting. I'm not sure what was going to happen that night, and I never learned because the guy is still out there, probably sneaking around and watching someone without them realizing it.